How's school going so far?
So far, so good. Yeah, so far, so good. A little challenges continually with filling positions like bus drivers and paraprofessionals who are, kind of on the lower paid salary end, and in the market we're in, it's a little more challenging. So, but overall, things are going very well. We'll start, and I think we're back to normal. I know we have some catch up to make, but I think we're back to normal, whatever normal is.
Yeah, the new normal, right? Exactly. Seeing as you brought up salaries, why don't we start with a resolve presented by Councillor Palmucci at the City Council meeting last night, seeking compensation review of all city employees.
Yeah, I know, and we've had meetings across the state and discussions, and I know the state's very concerned about the brain drain at the state level, and younger professionals are not going into government. We're seeing us having trouble filling positions with CDL drivers, school bus drivers, some of the lower paid part-time positions like cafeteria help, food service people, paraprofessionals in the schools. Across the board, we're seeing some of these challenges. So, in the marketplace, we're looking at there may be some. I look at there's some city employees that probably are in a fine place, but there are others that, we got to take a good look to see where we're at and how we compare and how we're competitive. So I appreciate the resolve by Councillor Palmucci. Of course, we'll be looking at everything across the board. We're in the middle of negotiations on 3-year contracts, and the patrolmen have settled. Superior voting soon. Fire department's voting soon. So, we're making good progress. But, when you go over the years, Joe, and you do the calculations over time, generally speaking, you get percentages, right? So if somebody's making $15,000 a year working just a school year, 3% of that is far different than a school principal's 3%, or a fire lieutenant or police sergeant's 3%. So kind of the gap widens a bit over time. So we got to look at a way to see how we can address this without violating, obviously, negotiating in good faith with each of our unions.
How will the actual review take place? Will it be an outside firm that comes in, or how will that happen?
Well, we've already been working with an outside firm on some of the levels, particularly department heads, department managers, and we know from our own comparisons with other communities that we're very competitive on certain areas like police and fire, and several other areas. But there are other areas like the ones I mentioned that we're on the lower tier, and that's becoming a challenge to fill these positions.
Mm-hmm. Any time frame on this review and when a report might be available?
No, I think we'll move swiftly on it because I know from talking to the superintendent we've got some challenges to fill some of these positions. For those that don't know what a paraprofessional is, paraprofessional is somebody that professional person that works in some cases in the classrooms as a teacher aide. And in some of the challenging classrooms, we are dealing with some kids that have some real challenges. They may be an office aide, they may work in a nurse's office, they may work in a main office, but they kind of assist, and they're not a 52-week employee. They work the school year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a good example of we got to take a good look at some of those types of positions. So there's no time frame, but we've got to move fairly quickly on it just to stay competitive.
I know that one of the positions has been the tree warden. It's been particularly hard to fill, right?
Yes, we had several interviews and people that expressed interest, and then they pulled out the last minute. My guess is they used our offer then to leverage back to where they were working, and the other community upped their salaries so they wouldn't lose them. So it's a challenge, and we just did fill the earth scientist position that was open, so we're grateful on that one. But it's becoming more and more of a challenge. I mean, I've been in government for many years, Joe, and people will be lined up for some of these jobs, and it's not the case anymore.
Oh, I didn't know Miss Sullivan had left.
Yes, she did.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Changes are happening quickly.
They sure
You anticipate this will be part of the next budget proposal?
Well, yeah, I'm sure it'll be definitely be part of the next budget, if not before.
Okay, very good. Seeing as we're on the topic of last night's City Council meeting, another issue was an ordinance proposed by Councillor Phelan to rezone the MBTA bus yard on Hancock Street to open space.
Yes, we've working with Councillor Phelan on that issue. as you know, I've expressed interest in acquiring that property for the city purposes, to make it part of Marymount Park, part of the stadium, and perhaps put some amenities there that may augment what we already offer to our kids and student community. So this is a natural step in the council rezoning into open space that devalues the site on the real estate market. We also have a vote of the Park and Recreation Board indicating that they support the administration's goal to acquire that property. It's currently Residence Dejo, which would allow a very big building with an awful lot of units, and I think that would spoil the look of Marymount Park. But I also think that we could put the land to good use. And there's no formal agreement with the MBTA, but I did express my interest in the land when we're dealing with the Lowe's site for the new bus barn. So I don't want to say a deal was made that wouldn't be appropriate, but we've had discussions indicating our interest, and the administration at the T has not suggested any opposition to that at this point. So it's just the resolve by Councilor Phelan, and hopefully action by the council will help cement the deal, if you will, and send a message to the neighborhood, a good message.
Would the city purchase that property, or would it somehow be transferred to the city? How would
There'd be some kind of a transfer. How that shakes out, I don't know at this point.
Right. Okay. I know you've expressed interest in perhaps an indoor sports complex at that location.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's something we're looking at, and I'm looking at a number of private sources to build that. A lot of balls in the air on that one, but you got to secure the property before we can do anything more than that. So,
how big is that site, Mayor? Do you know roughly?
That's a good question, Joe.
Just curious.
It's a pretty good sized site when you look at the depth of that property, the size of that garage.
Yep.
So it could take some good uses there, some athletic uses. There's plenty of room there.
Although it looks like the Tees project on Bergen Parkway is being, I guess, revisited because of cost.
Yeah, I guess the bids came in so dramatically higher. I mean, there's always an assumption you may have. In this economy, everything is just wacky right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the supply chain, the material costs, labor costs, it's just wacky right now. So it surprised me, the spread in it, but they are revisiting it. That's the future. It's got to happen. So it's just trying to value engineer to see if they can make it a little bit more economical. So hopefully I'll get a report on that next week. We have an MBTA Board of Directors meeting next week.
Oh, good. Hopefully we can get caught up on that. Very good. Seeing we're on the topic of zoning, Mayor, talk a little bit about the zoning board. Do you feel that the board itself is doing an adequate job, doing its job as it's supposed to?
The zoning board should get a medal. That's going to be one of the toughest boards there is in municipal government, because it's always, generally speaking, it's neighbor against neighbor issues. Somebody wants to put a deck on, somebody wants to put a second story on, et cetera, and they deal with those issues. So, I think we have a very good board. I think they love the city. They try to make good decisions. I don't interfere with those decisions. There are times when I'm not happy with something and I express my concern, but it's an independent board. It's not supposed to be political.
Right.
So I try to stay away from that. But I also understand some of the concerns in some areas. There's also the issue of some of our zoning. Perhaps some of the zoning needs to be tightened up again, because as the economy has gone, land's become so valuable that areas you never thought would be developed, they're developing.
Yep.
So it's probably another look we have to take at the whole zoning code. But I think overall the zoning board works extremely hard and tries to do the right thing for the city.
I bring it up because I'm sure you're aware of questions that have been brought up at various meetings. Is it an appointed board, a mayoral appointment, or are they self-governing?
Yes, it is. We have a strong mayor form of government. Yeah. So the mayor of the city appoints all boards and commissions, and all department heads, with the exception of the city clerk and the city auditor. That's the way our charter reads. So, but it's also supposed to be independent, much like my board of assessors.
Yep.
They're full time, but under the law I appoint them, but I can't go near them about lobbying about any particular somebody's assessment. All I can do is ask them to meet with people. So we try to respect the laws and certainly our charter and how it operates. Yeah, I know that there are hot issues from time to time, and they're not always easily resolvable. And usually there's an agreed party in that process. It's just the way it is.
Right.
So it is a difficult one, and I thank the board for they put up a lot of late meetings, but they also put up with a lot of public criticism that I don't think is deserved.
And they're volunteering their time.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Tell me about the fall open house this Thursday, Mayor.
Well, I think Dagny and the team at Discover Quincy are just trying to once again emphasize what we have locally, the Welcome Center. We're going to have an open house for the public. I mean, visitors generally come in and see that spot, but a lot of our residents probably not even aware it's there. So we want to make people aware what we offer. Perhaps some of our local residents will take advantage of some of the tours, and if they've got somebody coming from out of town to visit, then they're aware of what we offer there. So I think that's generally the goal there.
I had an opportunity to take some friends from Western Massachusetts down to the presidential crypts not too long ago, and to see the amazement on their eyes is something that I had seen, many times over the years, brought new life to it for me as well. So I think it's a great way to see your own city again.
We take it for granted. I mean, where can you go in the country? You have two presidents and their wives side by side in crypts that you could go in and actually touch the tomb. It's pretty amazing. It's much like Adams himself. The way those crypts are, very simple. They're not grand, but very simple. And I think, though he was a complicated guy, at the end of the day, his philosophy was fairly simple.
Yep. It's funny you say that, because that's just what my friend did. Touched the granite tomb, and just to see the emotion was pretty eye-opening for sure.
Sure. They were giants in our nation's history. Sometimes we forget that.
Yep. Appreciate it, Mayor. Have a wonderful day.
You also, Joe. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.